Courage is not some deep internal fortitude. You don't dig down deep and find the courage. When you feel that someone has your back, when you know that the day that you admit you can't do it, someone will be there and say, I got you. You can do this. That's what gives you the courage to do the difficult thing. Courage is external. Our courage comes from the support we feel from others. It's the relationships that we foster. It's the people around us who love us and care about us and believe in us. And when we have those relationships, we will find the courage to do the right thing. Those relationships that we foster over the course of a lifetime will not only make us into the leaders we need to be and hope we can be, but they'll often save your life. They'll save you from depression. They'll save you from giving up when someone just says, I love you, and I will follow you no matter what. It's very easy to measure revenues and profits and market share. How do you measure leadership? How do you measure it?
That's going to be one of my questions.
How do you measure trust? You know, they lack good metrics. If you go to the gym and you work out and you come back and you look in the mirror, you will see nothing. And if you go to the gym the next day and you come back and you look in the mirror, you will see nothing. So clearly there's no results, can't be measured, it must not be effective. So we quit, right? Or if you fundamentally believe that this is the right course of action and you stick with it, you can screw it up. You can eat chocolate cake one day, you can skip a day or two. You know, it allows for that. But if you stick with it consistently, I'm not exactly sure what day, but I know you'll start getting into shape. I know it. These things are measurable, just not in the short term. In an ultra speedy, algorithmic world that we live in, what gets measured gets done. But it's not that it doesn't exist, it's that it's much easier to prove over time. It's not about the events, it's not about intensity, it's about consistency. Going to the gym for 9 hours does not get you into shape. Working out every day for 20 minutes gets you into shape. You have to brush your teeth every day for 2 minutes. What does brushing your teeth twice a day for 2 minutes do? Nothing. Unless you do it every day, twice a day for 2 minutes. Right? It's the consistency. So the problem is we treat leadership with intensity. We have a 2-day offsite, we invite a bunch of speakers, we give everybody a certificate, you're a leader. But it's the daily practice of all the monotonous, little, boring things like brushing your teeth that matter the most. It's an accumulation of lots and lots of little things that any one by themselves is innocuous and useless. Literally, pointless by themselves. She didn't fall in love with you because you remembered her birthday and bought her flowers on Valentine's Day. She fell in love with you because when you woke up in the morning, you said good morning to her before you checked your phone. She fell in love with you because when you had an amazing day at work and she came home and she had a terrible day at work, you didn't say, yeah, but let me tell you about my day. You sat and listened to her awful day and you didn't say a thing about your amazing day. This is why she fell in love with you. Leadership is exactly the same. There's no event. There's no thing I can tell you you have to do that your people will trust you. It just doesn't work that way. It's those little innocuous things that you do that people will say, I love my job. Not I like my job. I love my job means I don't want to work anywhere else. I don't care how much somebody else is willing to pay me. I'm devoted to the people here and I care desperately about the people here as if they were my family. The one thing I am comfortable saying that all effective leaders must have is courage, because it is hard. It is hard to stand up against outside pressure, to do the right thing for your people. It is hard. It is thankless. It is lonely. Sometimes you get fired. Sometimes you get in trouble. Sometimes you'll lose your job and the next guy will get all the credit. It's all true. And the courage to do the right thing in the face of overwhelming pressure, only the best leaders have that courage. It's counterintuitive, but that's what a strong environment means. It means I can be vulnerable. So the fact that you can say that out loud means that there's a loving, trusting culture here that is okay with you being vulnerable. Being vulnerable doesn't mean crying. Being vulnerable means willing to admit you made a mistake. Being vulnerable is the willingness to say, I need help. Being vulnerable is the willingness to express the feelings you have towards someone without fear of what other people may think. Most people, especially if they don't have a trusting environment or a strong corporate culture, most people don't want to feel vulnerable. It's dangerous to feel vulnerable. If you admit you made a mistake or you don't know what you're doing, you've been promoted into a job that you have no clue or no business being in that job, lying, hiding, and faking is a much better option. In business, we have colleagues and coworkers. In the military, they have brothers and sisters. That's how they think of each other, right? If you really have a strong corporate culture, the people will think of each other like brothers and sisters. Deep love. Fight, but the love doesn't go away, right? Bicker, the love doesn't go away. And I'll fight with my sister, but if you threaten my sister, you're going to have to deal with me. Nobody's going to hurt each other, and if anything from the outside shows up, you're looking at a unified front. Brothers and sisters. Now, how do you create brothers and sisters out of strangers? Common beliefs? Values. That's leadership. An absolute love and devotion for the people who've committed their lives to this enterprise. You will be able to weather hard times better because the people will come together, they won't abandon ship. Leadership is a practice like any other. It is a skill that can be learned, and that means it requires practice. You don't just suddenly get a promotion, you're now in a management position and you're a leader, right? It's not how it works. Leadership has nothing to do with rank. Right? Leadership is a responsibility. As you gain rank, you may have more responsibility over the lives of more people, but it doesn't change the nature of leadership. So even if you don't have the ability to make decisions that will impact the entire organization, you do have the ability to make decisions that will impact the life of another human being, how they feel about their own jobs. Well, I think one of the things that we forget is that we are a legacy machine working in a very different environment than we were designed for. We lived in populations that were never bigger than about 150 people for 40,000 of the 50,000 years that we've lived on this planet. And in other words, we're not made for this. Which means all the rules of being human are exactly the same as they used to be when we were living in populations of about 150. Our very survival depends on our ability to cooperate and trust with the people that we live or work with. With. The fact of the matter is we are social animals. and we respond to the environments we're in, always. You can take a good person and put them in a bad environment, and that person will do bad things. You can take a person who maybe the group doesn't trust, maybe they've even performed bad acts. You put them in a good environment, and they're capable of turning their lives around and becoming remarkable members of society. In other words, it's not the person, it's the environment. If you can understand those things, you really understand what works and what doesn't work, regardless of the conditions. You know, we're obsessed with this idea of like getting the right people on the bus, you know? As if it's this game that you just sort of keep changing people out, you know, some sort of mix and match or something. But we never ask which bus and who's driving the bus. Leaders think that they're responsible for the results. There's not a leader on the planet that is responsible for the results. A leader is responsible for the people who are responsible for the results. Take care of that, take care of the people, take care of the environment, things go just fine. Everybody talks about the importance of culture, yet nobody seems to be focused on building it. I've never met a CEO in my life who doesn't think people are important, and yet every day they're making decisions that prioritize a number over a person. I know many, many people who sit at the highest levels of organizations who are not leaders. They have authority, and we do as they tell us because they have authority over us, but we wouldn't follow them. And yet I know many people who've made a choice, who have no rank, but they've made a choice to look after the person to the left of them and look after the person to the right of them. And we would follow them anywhere.